I'm Corey Philly, and I'm the executive director of the Vancouver Fringe, and we are now in the I don't know bazillionth episode of All Things Fringey, our new podcast, which you're doing every day during the Fringe. This is the second today, last day of the Fringe. It's September 17th. Woo! I'd just like to acknowledge that we're in the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, and it is an honor to live, work, and fringe on these territories. And hey, I just wanted to give a good shout out to everybody. We had the GoFundMe campaign go up for Matt yesterday. People have been very generous already, and I just really appreciate people responding. He's really looking forward to getting back to work sometime in November, I would imagine at this point. And I also just want to say that we're at Leap Creative Studios. I was really fortunate to finally catch the live streaming event last night, which was so cool, and Marvin and Ken made that space amazing. So I just wanted to give a good shout out to them because, they just got in here a couple of months ago, I think, and now they're actually really having a happening production space going on. So thank you so much. And of course, they're making this all happen because I don't know this. I just know this. That's all I know. What is very cool is that we're here with Jem Rolls.
Hi. Look at you.
The king. I think the king of all fringes. I think we were just talking about that. You were saying how many pitches do you think you've done?
I reckon I had a pitch, which I became really, really slick. And I'm so slick that I actually dissolved into a thing of oil and I kind of ran down the road somewhere on Granville Island, but I got so ridiculously slick with it. But I reckon I did it about 25,000 times.
Jesus.
The same thing. And also, but when you've done it that much, it just comes out of your brain with no effort. So I do actually think I've met more fringers across Canada than anyone else, and this has generally been, been a huge amount of fun. I mean, I was often in a state of caffeinated dementia, and not enough food, too much caffeine, quite possibly hungover, and sort of raging self-obsession, and constant excitement and exhilaration, and just a crash bang wallop of all the things that go well, which have a great tendency to be followed by things which go extremely badly. Bomb, and then one day finally you're deposited at the on a Monday somewhere near Granville Island, and the whole 3.5 month tour or whatever is over. This is now my 18th tour.
Holy Dinah!
Yeah, I keep telling people, I'm only 42, and it's been yet another long summer. And what happens is I basically get a year younger every day for the next 10 days once I kind of get somewhere. But actually I'm not staying anywhere for very long after the Fringe back England, and then I'm going to relax from the tour by doing a 850 kilometre pilgrimage across Spain, the Camino del Norte.
Oh my, you're doing that? Wow.
I am doing that, yeah.
Wow.
I'm doing a different one, the one along the north coast. So which brings the Atlantic weather system into my October Atlantic weather system. How's that going to work out?
Layers, Jem.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. And to the Fringe. Where were we? Yeah.
Oh yes. Well, this is it. I mean, I first encountered you. This is my first year, and I first encountered you with a lovely email / concrete poem that you sent to me, which you. Do you know concrete poems are like they take the shape of the thing and thing. Yeah. I don't know if you know that. Sometimes when I looked at that, I went, oh, I know. That it's delightful because it's also a shape, and I like that when I for sure.
Okay,
when I looked at it.
Yeah, I just see them as broken up prose rather than poems. But yes, but basically too much words, too much information. I don't know where I was. I had too much coffee. I was probably sitting on a beach somewhere, or maybe I was up the Himalayas.
I think you were trying to get from the US up here, and you were
then okay, right.
You were like Orlando or something.
Okay, yeah, Orlando. I had because I spent 2 years on a beach in India, and I finally had I thought I'd had culture shock at Abu Dhabi airport, but actually I had my culture shock in Office Depot in Orlando, when my spirit just unstoppably sank at the bottom of me at the existential nightmare of Office Depot in Orlando, which was just a terrible experience, and it took me a few days to recover, to be honest.
I bet. And I think what you're saying, which is we've been very fortunate, and I'm knocking a whole bunch of wood, that we haven't had lots of COVID running around here, but Orlando was I think what you're saying was they had sort of been rampant at COVID. It was the time of year, right?
Yes.
It was kind of right at the beginning of everything.
Well, there's COVID's been here and it's been at everyone. Someone's got it at every festival. Yes. I think Edmonton was the one that didn't. Yeah, there were people in, shows being cancelled in Toronto and Orlando and Montreal and Ottawa. Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah,
in fact,
yeah.
Including here. And, Corin Raymond is now back doing his own show.
Yeah, I know, which is so great. TJ Dawes substituted for Corin for 3 shows because Corin did it for TJ when TJ had COVID. I think a great reciprocity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, my show. Should we get to my show?
Yeah. Well, first of all, actually, I would love to get to your show, but first, I'd like to just for people to know, where you're coming from, how you got into Fringey, how you got into theater, that kind of stuff. If you don't mind expounding a little bit on that.
Okay, right. I never got on stage till I was 31. Stumbled on stage into a poetry open mic of legendary awfulness with no redeeming features whatsoever, next door to Hackney Empire in North London, and basically, and it was a really good place to start because everyone was terrible.
Oh.
You did not. I mean, the bar staff were awful. The place was awful. The tech was awful. The MC was awful. All the other poets were awful. Some of the musicians might not be terrible, but they were musicians. So and I just, it's one of those things of what you do is you're doing something and you think 98% of this is terrible, but the 2% that you like of what you're doing is really utterly fascinating, and that just 2% grows and grows and grows, and in the end, over a whole succession of time, turn into an artist. So I don't get on with institutions. Can't really be bothered with establishments and curators and all that kind of thing. So, in a sense, it took me a little while to find the Edinburgh Fringe.
Oh, is that where you started?
Yeah. And so I did the Edinburgh in '96. I'd already been running a poetry cabaret in London, so I kind of took that up there. And the most courageous thing I've ever done that makes no sense if I look back is actually starting a poetry cabaret like a week, every Thursday for 5 years.
Wow.
Which was brilliant in a way, and an extremely good school because it was London in all its glory of people, just performers from a whole manner of different fields and schools. People coming into poetry from live art, from theatre, from stand-up, from politics, from storytelling, and from proper poetry. And so there's a great range of people and people from wildly different ethnic backgrounds, lifestyle backgrounds, class backgrounds, just all the great, in a sense, that's what's great about London. Lots of downsides to London, but in a sense, that's its upside. And I was surrounded by all those classy people and learnt very, very fast. So then I tried Edinburgh, 3-hander, totally out of our depth. I had no idea what we were doing. Our accommodation officer was sleeping in a bush. I was sleeping with the most predatory gay poet on the whole London poetry scene. It wasn't a very big bed, and it was less wide than this. It was a long way from perfect all around. We all wanted to kill each other. And the amazing thing is that we survived the first year. We didn't give up,
Wow.
And we just kind of
something.
and basically we didn't lose money. It's the Edinburgh Fringe, because everyone's, you can sit around a table and everybody's losing thousands of pounds a week, and we're like making, and I was one of the people that invented the idea of the free fringe, pay what you like at the end. So we're saying that, and we're kind of living off like 150, 200 pounds a week each, which is just reasonable money. Meanwhile, other people, much more successful and famous than us, with their great reviews and their faces on the front of buses and so on, they're all losing 1,000, 5,000 pounds a week. And it was just a complete disconnect, and there's and not wanting to deal with that whole way of doing things, that whole sense of careerism. And with the Fringe, you can do whatever the hell you like as long as you make it work. Mm-hmm. And if you take your foot off the pedal, don't do enough work, you suffer. But really, yes, you can get away with anything. And I'm able to profess to this as anyone, because I've done a 60-minute show about shopping, which which is one of my favourite shows of my own, and it was written by someone who doesn't really understand shopping. It's really terrible at it. And I got, I did a clown show, mind you, that was a financial failure. So I've only had one year that I was out of 17, 18 that I would actually consider a bad year. All the others have kind of been good. Anyway, and I first did Toronto in 2001.
Okay.
I won CAF in 2003. And that's the real game changer.
Yeah.
Is doing the whole
the
whole circuit. And then after 2 years of that, because I had a whole bunch of material from before, and then it's a bit like your first album, second, after 2 years of doing old material, I had to write a new show. And again, the second show I wrote specifically for the tour, 2006, I really, really liked, and that was, again, you just, in a sense, you just go through leaps. It's never easy. You never know what to expect. You can fail at any festival, any point. It seems to be, you can get trashed by reviews, you can get utterly made by reviews. I had a play in Edmonton which had a classic one. One day I couldn't give a ticket away because nobody wanted one. And the next day I couldn't give a ticket away because they'd all gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 4.5-star review from the Edmonton Journal. But the complete switch. And if you let all these ups and downs get to you, you will be a traumatized piece of wreckage staggering around Granville Island, as I have done on many years, in a complete daze, being absolutely impossible to talk to from man or beast, and the coffee is months from running out, the caffeine in the veins. So you're drinking beer to kind of kill the coffee.
Wow, you've been loyal though to this circuit, and when you do a circuit, I mean, I know this year you're doing a show. Do you switch your shows up through the circuit from one venue to the other, or do you always keep to the same in a year?
I prefer to do the whole show the whole way through, and in a sense, Montreal and Ottawa, I would see as places to get a show together, because it's it's a whole a show, a piece of art that's 55 minutes long. It's a real thing to have created and made into something that actually functions for audience. Really you want a good couple of festivals before you get to the big ones. And I'd always kind of get to Winnipeg, and the show would really take off. It would really kind of have wings, because you just get a gorgeous and supportive audience. And by that time, you've kind of got yourself together. So I would and also once you've got a show that's up and rolling, you just want to keep going. If there were another 4 festivals after I had Vancouver of a similar size, I'd be happy with that, and I would do all of them, because you've done the tough bit by the time you get here, and the tough bit is a functioning show. Right. And so this year I did actually do a show, probably the 2 years time show in Ottawa, but that was just because they wouldn't let me do a 75-minute show, so I was kind of forced to do in a sense. I mean, this show is part of a trilogy, and so I did the third one just in Ottawa. But I think next year I will do a show about the pandemic, and I might even do the opening of I haven't written it yet, and I haven't written my piece for tonight's cabaret, but I think it might be the opening of the show. I'm dead. It's the afterlife. Oh, how I realised that I was dead, whilst on a beach in an Indian paradise. I don't know how it took me so long to realise that I was dead. That was the afterlife, and because I was kind of on I was on a 5-mile asteroid floating wooey in space-time, and actually, we were all dead, and that was much more plausible than a bat bit of pangolin somewhere in southern China at some point in November 2019, and the whole world's turned to crap. I mean, compared to that, we're all dead. And so I didn't actually go round. I didn't actually realize I was going to do a show about this, because everybody does shows about themselves, and I kind of try and avoid to do shows about myself, but I am going to totally do a show about myself, and of that bizarre experience there. And so yes, in the cabaret tonight, that's what I will.
Have you gone on beyond here, like gone to Australia and stuff like that, done their fringes yet, or
no? Yeah. I was, then I kind of wondered about it, but they run on the Edinburgh model. They run on you lose bucket loads of money, and you should be proud and pleased to have the privilege to lose bucket loads of money.
Because you're there.
And because that's what, when I first got to Edinburgh in '96, it was in a process of changing fast. And some, and in fact, you turned into the rip-off kind of racket that it is, because everybody loses money. And 10 years before, it hadn't been like that. And you have to remember that. So that means that Edinburgh kept its ideals for more than half of its existence to date. And there's, because it was, been going since 47. Wow. And it only started really getting corrupted in the early 90s, from what I can work out. The way that people say. And now it's, it's a comedian's trade fair, and it slowly turned into that. But it was, I always say that if the Canadian fringes are like a Franklin D. Roosevelt version of capitalism, then the Edinburgh fringe is a Genghis Khan version of and it is. It really is that. So I haven't done the Australians, because they operate on that model, and I kind of like it. If you see Martin Dockery's show here, he talks perfectly about what that experience is like, and and I know people who've done it. They've killed one year at Adelaide, and they got massacred the next, and just got nowhere.
What do you think was the change that happened in the 90s that moved it out of that first sort of,
idealism?
Oh.
Yeah. No, there's lots of idealism. There's one very, very simple answer: money. And so basically, the comedy agents, the people who run the venues, especially the big venues, especially the big 4 then, and the city council, all really put the screws in for money, and they realised they didn't have to just make money out of the audience, they could make money out of the performers as well, and they do.
Wow.
And that's a lot of their business model, and they've utterly got away with it, and there's no way it's going to change. They've got so much power. The actual festival itself, like you've got no power whatsoever in that situation. In the whoever runs the festival, all the venues have to do is just threaten to leave the Fringe box office system, and the Fringe will immediately do anything that those venues ask for, because that's a lot of their, they've really got them by the cojones. Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
And so your job, how you do here, what you operate is a very different beast.
It is.
Yes, the people, if you meet those people, they're kind of like you, but they've got, in a sense, they're enabling bastards, and your job is essentially a very supportive thing. I mean, you've got a gazillion things to deal with. That I'm sure the last 10 days of your life have been an absolute shock, and I don't know how long you're going to sleep for when it's over, but probably even longer than I'm going to sleep for once this is over. It's for me, but it's this is a supportive thing. It's uncurated. You've got far more chance of coming from nowhere and really making it. The people who succeed in Edinburgh are probably people who've done really good stuff before they even got there. They've probably done proper shows in Adelaide or London or San Francisco.
Right.
Still, you meet people who do Edinburgh, and they've done big stuff in their hometown, in New York, in San Francisco. And they go to Edinburgh and they get an audience of 4 a night, and they just get crushed into dust. That's kind of how it works. And and I've met an awful lot of people that's happened to. And when we did it, we just pay what you like at the end. Which was in a sense, the guy who got famous for it, Peter Buckley Hill, he did that for idealistic economic reasons, and I kind of just did it for for artistically desperate. This is the best way to not fail reasons. Even though ideologically I was there with it, but I basically did it because it was.
Do you think being there and actually going, hey, we're pay what you can? It was at the end of the. Did you do it at the end of the show or to begin the show?
At the end of the show. No, we would always say all the other shows are cowards. they think you're not going to like them. They get the money off you first. We say pay what you like at the end. It was a very, very good piece of logic.
That's a really good piece of logic.
And also with Edinburgh, an awful lot of people go to Edinburgh. They go there for 10 days. They have 3 fantastic days in which they spent all their money. And they're kind of completely stranded on £5 a day, so they could come to the show, and it would all add up. It would all add up quite nicely, and it just, in a sense, an absurd amount of fun. But that lasts for a month. Just imagine doing what you're doing right now, Corey, for a month. Would you still be standing? I don't know.
I don't know. I actually got up this morning and I was like, I texted Ken and I said, am I doing something? I knew I had you at 12, but I thought I might be doing something at 11. And I was like, and something happening at 11? And I was like, no. I said, yay. Just the moment. I think the thing is, of course, you look at it like the infrastructure of something like the Edinburgh Fringe, which has been around forever, and they have all these different humans and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, the issue is not the length of time. The issue is the capacity of having enough humans there to absorb all the different interactions that are going on. It's not that many, actually. To be able to do that, we just haven't been that fortunate this year because people have gone off and they've been sick, or they, other things have happened. So, so it's. I note to myself, it's been delightful to talk to everybody. I love the energy of it. I love people coming up and having conversations with me, even when it's negative conversations. Though haven't been that many, really. And I like all that stuff. And then but it is tiring. That's what's more tiring to me than actually, working an 8-hour office day or whatever, it's all the energy to talk to humans and see things.
I've never had a proper job, by the way. I've got to the age of 60, I've never had a proper job. Everyone thinks, you must have had a side job. No, I was just broke, and then I became a poet, which you would assume was a really good way to stay broke. It didn't quite work out like that. Yeah. And also a very good way to continue to be inactive, but, because everyone thinks a poet's going to just sit around and do nothing, but really it turned into vast quantities of work, because all I do is shows. So I don't sell anything, don't do any books, and it's all about the show, the live thing, which is far more fun and far less bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Said. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you, talk about the show that you're currently doing. Tell me what it's about.
Okay.
Talk about that.
So I'm doing a show called The Walk in the Snow. So the way I pitch it is Christmas Eve. So it's a true story. Christmas Eve, 1938, 2 Jewish refugees from the Nazis go for a walk in the snow in Sweden, and the world is never the same again. So it's this woman and her nephew. It's Lise Meitner. She's a physicist, most famous for not winning the Nobel Prize, but really she should be famous for a bunch of stuff. In particular, what happens on the walk in the snow, Christmas Eve 1938, when effectively science changed forever, and you can't think of many days when it changed more, because it's ultimately on the course of that walk they realised the atom could be split. In fact, they'd already been splitting the atom. People like Fermi and Bohr, had been doing it in their laboratories, but didn't understand their own results and their own experiments. So it all happens that day, and she didn't work on the bomb. Her nephew did work on the bomb, and she's almost the only one of the people who could have worked on the bomb who didn't. And she really needed a good job at the time, and her nephew was going, because she could have gone to New Mexico for the Manhattan Project and turned it down. And so it's kind of an amazing life, and also she was really shy and quiet. So it's kind of because she achieved so much, even though most people perceive her in the negative. But really, it's a career of serious achievement, and she did it despite being really shy and really quiet, and a woman in totally and utterly a man's world, and with the rise of the Nazis and the ever-growing anti-Semitism, which had always been there anyway, but in the end becomes utterly murderous. And friends of hers did die in the Holocaust. So so the show also features a dramatic escape. She was lucky to get out.
Oh wow!
And she made an illegal journey, some of which is still unclear. So I do that bit quite quickly in the show, because it's not actually clear to me how she got out, what happened at the border, what the Dutch border police were doing, what the German border police were doing, and which men, scientists, had been involved in her exit. So I don't know. There's a story there, and anyway. So most of the story, I know, it's pretty clear what happened, and just the fact that it's so big. I've met Jewish Austrians who don't know that the person who discovered the atom could be split was a Jewish woman from Vienna.
Wow,
yeah,
interesting. How did you come across the story? I mean, you obviously, if you already said you really like to read, so that's that you have books.
Okay, well, I in a sense, I was really lucky, because this is I'm going to do 3 shows around this film. The first thing I found, I was marooned in Dauphin, Manitoba at Christmas. Girlfriend at the time was sick, had nothing to read apart from bad books about the Nazis in the Second World War. Yeah, and there's one book about Nazi science. So it's an odd book. It was written by 3 different people, 2 of whom had no talent, and somewhere in one of them there was just a page about the walk in the snow. So actually, the first story I found was the walk in the snow, and I kind of went away for it, and I came back to it. I'm thinking, it's one of those things, because it's the first thing you find, you think this is the most important story, but I just kept coming back to it and realizing, actually, the walk in the snow is the big stuff. That's the big deal. So in a sense, as because you're constantly looking for ideas and detail, and interesting people, but the first thing I found was this story, which is kind of luck.
Yeah, that's luck. Yeah.
Yeah, but just the whole idea of auntie and nephew, both refugees, solving this enormous, because everyone knew there was something wrong in physics.
Yeah.
And it all gets solved that day. Yeah, so because Niels Bohr was very close to working it out himself. He's basically the giant at the time, and it took him about half a second to understand it when he was told. Just saw it immediately, but it was like, oh, what idiots we've been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, and it's it's a big dramatic story. So you've got a very shy woman, and the fact that it's a woman very much in a man's world, dealing with ridiculous amounts of institutional sexism, and just rank misogyny, and the Nazis, and the escape, and the atomic bomb, and the just the crappiness of how she doesn't get a Nobel Prize, because her main person she's associated with would be a guy called Hahn, and everyone blames him for the Nobel Prize. I would blame him for certain things, they said that her career shriveled away as she got older, but actually the Nobel Prize is not his fault. It's the miserable Swedish Nobel Prize bureaucrats. That's why she didn't get it. Yeah, and because she was living in Sweden, and in a sense she was a threat to the guy who ran physics committee.
Right.
It's that crummy.
Yeah,
It's really crummy,
Some kind of interpersonal shit or whatever, misogyny or whatever.
Yeah, and personal ambition on the lines of that guy. It's a bit that town ain't big enough, because in a sense she was even though he'd already got the Nobel Prize without inventing or discovering anything, but in a sense, she was bigger than him, and that town wasn't big enough for the both of them. And I have an excellent word in the show, which no one's ever heard before, but this is the word krokbenslagare, which is a Swedish for a scheming careerist.
Wow.
It means do nothing, trip people up. If there's anyone Swedish out there, apparently it does mean do nothing, trip people up. Krokbenslagare, one of those words you can thoroughly enjoy.
Yes.
The saying of. So anyway, so that's the show, which I reckon I'm only going to do once more, and that will be it.
Oh.
So I think I will not do this, because this is the second time I've toured it. And even though there's a couple of, I would like to do Victoria and Calgary with this show, but I suspect I just won't. I will put it to bed after tomorrow. My final show is I am the last show of the entire festival. Hi, now my name's Jim, and I'm on at 9:50 on the final Sunday. Everybody else is going to be having the last night party like I would be doing if I wasn't on. if I wasn't doing the show. The awards ceremony is actually happening during my show. So if you don't like awards ceremonies, why not come to my show? It's at the Waterfront Theatre.
It is VancouverFringe.com. Buy your tickets.
And really one of the nicest theatres on the entire Fringe tour, maybe the nicest as a performer.
Yeah.
Because basically it's 200 people close.
Yes.
And that just for the way it's just a body of people, lots of them near you, makes it excellent. I mean, you are quite blessed at this Fringe. So you now have the Arts Umbrella, very nice space. Review stage, great venue. The Nest, really, really rather nice. And the performance works for certain kinds of shows is great, like for the cabaret. But there aren't many of the Fringes with as nice a bunch of venues as and this is all on Granville Island.
Yeah.
So you're pretty luckily set here on this bizarre sports island, tourist island.
Very bizarre. Yes. Yeah. I keep on thinking we need another one though. We need another space. Well, I always want more spaces, and a lot of the spaces that we have, though you're right, we're very fortunate. I was like, if we could have 3 more spaces in the vicinity, very close vicinity, we would, you could stay down on Granville Island. But, next year, as more people come, it's like, where are you going to put them?
You might be at the Culture. But so I'd just like to point out there is the Arts Club as well, which is good. I've been on that stage, had a very nice time. That's a vast stage, as I remember.
Yeah, it's huge.
You suddenly realise, I'm meant to be over there in the course of one word. Yeah. So, but anyway, that's a nice venue as well. But like I said, the review stage is gorgeous for certain shows.
Yeah.
And I prefer the Waterfront just because this is a straight show. So that just... the most traditional sound
it's
this show, but not
everything.
every show. Yeah. Sometimes it's nice to have people around you and be able to work, 270 if not 360 degrees. But for this show, to just stand there at the audience is kind of perfect. So but I've actually been pretty lucky with but again with my venues this summer and my billets. I've had my best billets ever,
great.
right the way across the country, just one after another. I think my Ottawa billet was a lesbian drama professor, theatre of the oppressed, theatre of the absurd. I'd read half a bookshelf before I even got there. Anyway, got another house of fun. I'm pretty sure she missed me quite badly afterwards, and I missed you, Jen. So anyway, it's been, and here I'm on 19th from Maine, so that was just, it's very nice. Walk downhill, get the bus back.
That's all good.
Yeah.
And hey, anybody listening to this, we are going to be courting billets for over this next year, because we lost about 3/4 of them as the world went on, and people felt weird about pandemic. So think about this. Think about having a Gem Rolls at in your home for a bit. It's delightful, and he'll read up as well before he actually gets there.
Yeah, and also you could get somebody else, not me. To be honest, Corey, I've had billets in the city that never talked to me ever again, and basically because I've been a sort of rancid, demented, self-obsessed wreck by the time I've washed over the Rockies and kind of collapsed onto Granville Island. So I'm not sure I'm the best advert for best advert, but some of these people are super nice people. Yes, I'm saying Trina Ferris has got DK Reinemer, and he's living on a couch, super nice guy. So and people from all over, stories from all over.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. That is such a cool story. That is amazing. Do you have anybody who's interested in sort of like learning more, do you have a book you would recommend? Obviously, you read it off a third of a book, right? It was like a story in a book.
Around the subject.
Yeah.
The best book around the subject is The Making of the Atomic Bomb by Richard Rhodes.
Okay.
Who's still alive. It's one of the 2 or 3 best works of American nonfiction I've ever read. And he's actually a Facebook friend of mine. I mean, he must be pretty old by now. But that's a serious piece of scholastic writing. And also there is a good book, 2 good books on Meitner. The main one would be by somebody called Syme, American woman. I think she's at Sacramento. It's Syme, Sime, and that's about Lise Meitner, A Life in Physics. That's a really good book, though it does actually wade into the physics, so you might find that you're not reading every chapter. I didn't read every chapter either. And as some of these things that she spent years working on turned out to not exist, what's the point of reading a really, really difficult picture about some physics that turned out to be wrong?
Yeah, that does not seem like the good time. But the other part of her story and how she got here. Did she end up just being in Sweden?
Well, she actually ended up in England. In fact, she's buried about 15 miles from where I grew up.
Ah.
So I put some flowers on her grave not long before I left. And but yeah, she was in Sweden for 20 years, which is almost certainly a mistake within her life, because she'd got an awful lot done before then, and then she was just there and, in a sense, back to square one, and excluded as a woman. And also by that, and there are parts of that story that don't make sense, because she was a professor from a physics professor from Germany, and in the 20s and 30s there is no greater credential in the science world. It's much, than being a German physics professor. It's just the number one, and the other people are Schrödinger and Einstein and and Planck, and just absolute giants. And she's a professor like them. So you'd really think that when she escaped, she would I've done big things, but really she was just stuck in Sweden with a croak Ben slaggerer, who was far more interested, And there again, because she, for any scientific institution, she would be a big bonus.
Yeah. Because
she'd achieved a lot and was going to achieve a lot more. So, but anyway, men and their careers, so yes, you could say that she never really worked again after the Walk in the Snow or after the resulting science, and she was only 60 at the time and had done a lot before then, and basically she, because she'd been in one of the, quite possibly the best labs in the world, and suddenly she's got nothing.
Wow.
It's a real up and down of a story, but I do think that Lise Meitner, she is a success, and I'm trying, in a sense, the show is trying to rescue her from the sense that there's something tragic about her and it's a negative and it's a defeat, but really, she did it. It's one of the biggest days in the history of science. It's as big as Einstein on his trolley. So,
Wow. Yeah. Cool. Jim, thank you for that. Okay, and now the other amazing thing that is happening, honestly, is we are. I don't know what version this is, but I mean, as in how many times you've done this.
Okay.
But Jem is in control, and
if anyone's in control, I am. Yeah, I used to have a plan to have a plan to have a plan. Now I think I've got a plan to have a plan. But by 8 o'clock tonight, I will have a plan.
Yeah.
And there will be, and the plan will have to happen because it's the only one. The only person who knows what's going to happen at the Cabaret of Bullshit is moi. So I don't really know yet. But hey, this is, it's 12:30, and I've got ample time to sort this out. And really, you just hand the back, and it's because we run it's the Cabaret Bullshit. So it's lit by flashlights. Mm-hmm. And so there's no kind of stage lights, people have sound and music and so on. But so which makes it a very odd thing to see, and something very democratic about the fact that the audience are holding 50 lots of flashlights. And when you're performing, it's really weird. I've tried to warn the performers. The first 5 seconds when you've got this floating lights around, it's a really peculiar sensation, and you just have to keep going through it. But anyway, so there's no MC. The audience have no idea what's coming next or what genre, who's going to be in it. They can make a few guesses, but they absolutely don't know, and things just pop up because there's no stage lights. Things happen all around the room. So within the audience, on the aisle, back of the room, by the sides, different parts of the stage. So it really liberates the room, and it's kind of one thing after another. So it's a bit like it's like the baton. You've no idea what's coming next, and some of it sounds more like live art to me. Some of it, there's the odd song. There's at least one dance routine. I'm telling a story I haven't even written yet. In fact, I haven't got time to write it, so I'm going to have to just kind of do it. It's about something that happened. It's about realising that I was dead, and this is the afterlife. But of course, though, there is the point that if I was dead and that was the afterlife, how does the Vancouver Fringe get into this metaphor? I'm not quite sure where we're in that narrative flow.
Yeah.
So I think I came back into the world in Office Depot in Orlando with some severe existential shock. Yeah, it's scarred my soul forever. Where was I? Oh yeah, the cabaret. And so it's about it's just it's in two halves and there's about 20 different bits, but it's a glorious beast. It comes out. The idea of the flashlights, I think, came out of Taos from New Mexico originally, the Pajama Men. But we've been doing them in Winnipeg since 2006. And they were instantly kind of marvellous, and we would do them as a secret thing, not even through the Fringe. And then the idea spread here. So I've run pretty much everyone here, apart from one that Tara Travis ran, and that fabulous local performer who's the only person I've actually enjoyed running the show with. And anyway, it's kind of a one-person job rather than a two-person job because it would take longer to explain what your plan is than to make things happen. But anyway, and I think because I always thought it was the best, the Winnipeg Cabaret was the best thing that happened on the entire tour. And in a sense that might have shifted here because the thing is, lots of people have done their piece already in Winnipeg and they've got the stuff together. And also, Winnipeg is frequently where the tour first comes together. So, you don't, because you don't actually find who's around, so you kind of get there and you just meet them in the pub or whatever, or whilst flying. So everything's a bit new and frantic in Winnipeg, and so by the time we get here, everyone's got to know each other. They've had time to think about those pieces, and people have a greater sense of what each other are capable of, and that just so I think the way it's gone. Though the Winnipeg one is brilliant. I think generally the best event on the whole Fringe tour has been the Vancouver Cabaret. Over the kind of past 5-6 years, of course, there were 2 years when nothing happened and I was dead and it was the afterlife. I was on a faraway beach waiting for Office Depot. Never go there. Go somewhere else. Staples. That's ghastly as well. But I think there's a particular horror. An Office Depot. Where were we?
We were talking about this. So it is going to start at 11, right?
11, yeah. I reckon 11 pretty prompt. I think the doors will open about 2:45. So that's the performance works. It's really quite a glorious up thing. Most stuff is funny. Some stuff is absolutely crazy. I'm sure there'll be something in it that happens that you've never seen before. There's at least one idea that someone explains to me, but I don't understand what they mean. Maybe when I'm not so quite exhausted, I would actually be able to understand those words that they wrote to me about what they're going to do. It made no sense to me whatsoever, but it's going to happen.
And it's by donation. Right?
I have no idea.
Oh, it is
you
by
tell
donation.
me.
It is by donation.
Tell me.
It's by donation. It's by donation. So basically, it's anything you want. We suggest perhaps a $10 minimum donation, but but you can do whatever you want. And there's going to be obviously beer and other things there, and it goes. And I've been told that this is something that can extend into the early.
Possibly. I think this is going to be quite tight.
Oh, good.
That's just my sense.
Sorry, that wasn't because I don't want to go.
But okay, that means there's another. But there's 8 hours for things to loosen considerably and become something else. And go. Next time I get on Messenger, I'll probably get inundated by a whole mass of changes. Somebody's got COVID, somebody's arrived in town, and so on. There are some artists here. I would really like to get in it, and also with the tours, I haven't met everyone, which is a shame. So there would be, there are some there's some Americans here, and I'm not even sure who they are. Yeah. So, but anyway, you can't meet everyone, and it's frantic enough as it is.
As it is, and also this is the first year that everybody has sort of started again into the circuit, right? And not everybody did everything. Not everybody did what normally would happen, which they go to every single thing.
And this festival isn't. This festival's not as large as usual. The traveling gang isn't, which is a really nice gang this year. Isn't as large as usual. And I mean, all the festivals have been smaller. They've all been pretty much functioning. Edmonton was definitely the best one of the summer because they had this big outside outdoor thing, and that really just made it feel like the usual gorgeous beast.
Yeah.
And but Toronto was a great Fringe, and big lineups right from the start, and
Cool.
it's been pretty nice all the way along. Yeah.
That's really great. Okay, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm in charge of getting batteries for the said flashlights.
Okay, right. I'm all I'm going to do is I'm going to go and have a sleep. I might go and see David Jordan's show, Some Poems.
Oh, yes.
Terrible title for a show.
I agree. But I understand that the actual show is very delightful.
Yeah,
so,
anyway, I think that's what I'm going to do next if I can eat some food first, because by this stage, I'm about 5 meals behind. When I first got on tour, because I've been in India for 2 years, I put on 16 pounds in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And I think, but since then, it's been coming off. You know, so by one stage I didn't have to have a belt. Now I need to have a belt again.
Jem is a very tall, slim man, so this is not something that he can afford. Actually, really. Yeah.
So I'm off to eat a burger. That's what I'm doing. Yeah. How very showbiz. So yes. Hi. Are we done?
I think we're done.
I think we're done.
Jem,
right.
Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, Chloe, and good luck with everything. And with any luck, I'll be here next year.
Oh, that would be so great. I know. I'm starting to even think about next year, which is like for a while I was just thinking I just need to get from this moment to the next moment. So it's good.
I applied to the Montreal Fringe at 9 o'clock this morning. It's starting again.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. And I think what piece I'm going to do in the cabaret tonight is going to be the first part of my show from next year.
Oh, right.
This wouldn't be the first time. More than one bit that Martin Dockery's done in the show in the cabaret has turned out to be the kind of kernel of next year's show, or maybe even the show the year after that. And that's how things work. I think the Merkin sisters, who've been very successful in the prairies on the Fringe, which is Stephanie Moran Robert and Ingrid Hansen, two very classy people.
Yes,
Ingrid
lovely.
Hansen, is about as talented as a Fringe performer as you get. But the Merkin sisters were born in the cabaret during the in the performance works.
Really?
1 year, about 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah. So anyway, that's the kind of way that it's going, as people taking risks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that sort of being the seed for the next thing that's going to happen, as well as the other performers are, actually. I think that's what also the great energy for that. Okay, I'm going to let you go so you can eat and sleep. Bye, everybody. I will see you tomorrow for our last one. And have a really good day. VancouverFringe.com. Lots of shows still to go to see. That's all I got. Okay, bye.